Yo, Craig here. Good to be back with you on another video. And today we are going to be breaking down a ranking of all of the assault rifles in Call of Duty Black Ops 6. So if you're like me and you're an assault rifle first kind of a Call of Duty player, or maybe you're just grinding the camos, you've gotten the camos you like with the other weapon classes, now you're working on the assault rifles, and you want to know what are the best assault rifles in this game. So whether you're a beginner, whether you're a veteran, if you're new to Black Ops 6, or you're kind of in the middle of that grind and you just want to know where these ARs stack against one another, today I've got you covered. Make sure you watch to the end though, because I think you'll probably find some surprises along the way as I go through the rankings and my thoughts on these ARs, and I'll also be showing you how to construct your build out to make these assault rifles as effective as they can possibly be, because that makes a big difference. Some of these assault rifles, if you have different build outs, they're not going to be as effective as if you follow the build outs that I have for you today. So you want to make sure you watch all the way through. And if you have differing opinions on this, you know, these are just my opinions. So obviously, you know, that you might feel a little bit differently. I'd appreciate if you would leave a comment below. Let me know why you disagree with me, or if you agree with me, let me know why as well. But without further ado, let's get to it. Coming in at number 8 is going to be what is probably the most controversial ranking here in my AR ranking today, and that is the Goblin MK2, kind of holding up the rear here at number 8. Now, the Goblin MK2 is suffering from what I consider to be somewhat of an identity crisis.
I mean, I guess I literally have no idea who I am.
Is it a marksman rifle? Is it an AR? I don't know. It's semi-automatic. It's not fully automatic. For me, if I'm using an AR, I want a fully automatic ammo spit and beauty, and this just does not cut it for me. Now, that being said, the damage is off the charts. It is very similar to a marksman rifle. It does not quite as much damage as a marksman rifle. It does shoot a little bit quicker than most or all of them. You typically will take out an enemy in 3 hits. So that is the upside. The downside of it is you are limited by how quickly you can tap the fire button with your finger, and also while you're doing that, it is sometimes hard to maintain your aim because you're sitting there hitting the button so quickly with your finger. If you are going to use the Goblin, I recommend inverting your firing inputs. Instead of using L2 and R2 for your aim and fire, use L1 and R1, because there's those buttons are a lot smaller. It helps you hit them a little bit faster. However, the weapon just does not cut it for me. It does not fit the typical stereotype of an AR, in my opinion. It's not what I'd be looking for from an AR, and if I'm going to be using a semi-automatic weapon, I'd probably prefer using a marksman rifle anyway. So why even consider a Goblin MK2 if you're going to be using an assault rifle? That being said, the recoil is pretty manageable. It's not too bad, but again, you're very limited in your fire rate, and this just doesn't make the cut for me. So number 8 for the Goblin MK2. Coming in next at number 7, we have the AS Val. Now, the AS Val is another one that is suffering from somewhat of an identity crisis. It very much resembles a submachine gun in its fire rate, its ammo capacity, and even in its style. However, I actually would have ranked the AS Val a whole lot higher with just a few little tweaks to the build out that is offered to you. In fact, by the time you get to leveling this weapon up to its near maximum capability, it is a very, very strong AR, but it is very, very weak to start. So from a recoil perspective, this thing jumps like crazy, typical of an SMG. That does get a lot better as you start unlocking more of the attachments. You want to use the recoil springs and attach the different grips and stocks and underbarrels and all that will just help you to maintain better recoil. Now, the biggest downside to this weapon, the main reason that this weapon is down at number 7 in my rankings, is because of the magazine capacity. So when you first get access to this weapon, the magazine capacity is 20. Like I said, this thing spits ammo at a very rapid rate. And so unless your aim is dead on and you're hitting every single shot, you're usually only going to get to kill one enemy before you have to reload. So it's really hard to go on kill streaks. You get into a firefight with a group of enemies, you're probably going to kill one, then you're going to die because you're out of ammo, unless you can do a quick swap to your pistol and maybe get a kill that way. But the weapon, the recoil also is really, really, really unmanageable when you first get this weapon. Again, it gets better as you can start putting some of those attachments on and the recoil springs to really help control that recoil. But this weapon, by the time you get it fully upgraded, you have all the attachments, you can control the recoil, you have the extended mag 3 on it where you have 45 rounds. It is a very good weapon. In fact, if that was how you had this weapon, or it was close to that from the time you got it, this would be a much higher in the ranking. But because of where it starts and how tedious it is to get it to where it is a usable AR, number 7 is where I have the AS Val. Next up at number 6, we have the AK-74. Now, the AK-74 is a lot of fun to use, but when it comes to your ability to kill enemies, your ability to go on kill streaks, the accuracy that you can shoot with, it's just not there for me, guys. And so there are really 2 reasons why the AK-74 is coming in at number 6 and in such a low ranking. And those 2 reasons are recoil and fire rate. So the fire rate is pretty low. It has a lot of kick, and with that kick also comes a lot of terrible recoil control. So this weapon really has a lot of vertical recoil. So it's one of those where you kind of have to train yourself on how to use it. So if you want to get a lot of headshots as you're trying to get those camos unlocked, you want to start at the chest, and then hopefully by the 4th or 5th shot, you might be hitting the headshot. But it makes it very difficult to get headshots with it. Now, similar to the AS Val, once you start unlocking more of the attachments and grips and you know the recoil springs, and you start attaching those things, it does help. It helps a little, but even in its kind of maxed out state in terms of recoil control, this thing still has a lot of kick. And like I said, the fire rate is quite a bit less than some of the other ARs. So even though this thing looks great, it's fun to use. As far as if you're looking for the weapon that's going to help you be the best player you can be when you're playing multiplayer, this just isn't it. There are a lot better options out there, and we're going to be getting into those next. And now we're getting into the ARs that kind of fit the more typical stereotype of an AR. They have decent mobility, the recoil control is not bad, they have decent accuracy, decent stopping power. And so coming in at number 5, we have the GPR-91. Now the GPR-91 fits all those descriptions. It's kind of your run-of-the-mill AR. It's got decent accuracy, your mobility is okay, the recoil is not terrible. It's just kind of a mid-average, not very sexy AR. Doesn't look that cool. Its style is not that great. And I think the reason that I put this at number 5, why it falls short of the other ARs, is really just comes down to one thing, and that's its firepower. It doesn't do enough damage. I feel like there were often times I'd be shooting an enemy, and because I was used to using one of the higher tiered ARs, I think the enemy should be dead. I'd start to reload or go on to aiming at another enemy. I'd end up dying because the enemy wasn't dead yet, because the first 5 shots didn't kill them. So that is really why I have this assault rifle down at number 5 where it is. I do feel like it is a good weapon. It's certainly fun to use. It's certainly a usable AR. It's not one like where I would say don't ever use it. However, if you have access to some of the next 4 in the rankings that I'm going to be sharing with you guys, I don't feel like there's really much use for this rifle. But as you're going through the camo grind, you obviously have to do this if you want to get the higher level camos, because you will have to get diamond or higher on these to continue to upgrade the other camos with the other ARs. But overall, GPR-91 coming in at number 5. Now we're going to get into what I consider to be kind of the higher tier or the A-list of the assault rifles in Black Ops 6. Number 4, we have the XM4. Now the XM4 is the starting assault rifle. That's the one that you got right off the rip. You can start using this, and honestly, it's a really good AR for the first AR that you get in the game. It's easy to use. It's got it's a very average AR, but it's kind of good across the board. It doesn't really have any bad categories. It does good damage. It's got good mobility. It's got good recoil control, good accuracy, and there's really nothing bad you can say about it, but there's really nothing phenomenal you can say about it either. It's just kind of a slightly above average AR that checks all the boxes. It's a lot of fun to use. It's an easy one to use, so it's great. I love that they gave this to you as the starting AR, because it's a very good entry point for you. So if you're a beginner, know that Call of Duty devs had your back on this one. They gave you an AR that's going to be great to use right off the bat, and you should be able to enjoy this and start doing fairly well with it once you get used to the maps and all that stuff that obviously goes along with becoming a good player. But great AR, really easy to use, very smooth, very comfortable to handle. And honestly, when you're using this for a while and you move on to something else, depending on what you move on to, if you move on to something like the AK-74, which I believe is the second AR that you get access to, that actually really makes the flaws of the AK-74 show through. That's part of the reason I ranked the AK-74 below this one, while I do think it's worthy in the ranking I gave it. It really, the shortcomings and the weaknesses of the AK-74 really shine when you go from using the XM4 to the AK-74, because it is just such a big jump, and the AK-74's recoil is so much worse. It doesn't really compare. You know, the XM4 is a great AR. It's something that you'll be using because it's the first one you get, and I think you're gonna really enjoy that. But yeah, so enjoy using that while you can. But once you get access to these next few ARs, you definitely want to transition to them if your goal is to be the best player you can be and to have the most fun, because the next three are better. They're better in my opinion, and let's get into why. Next up at number 3, we have the Krig C. Now the Krig C, to be honest, is not that much of a different rifle than the XM4. In fact, I consider these things like kissing cousins. They're just basically the same rifle. If you look at the starting statistics in terms of their firepower, accuracy, mobility, it's all almost exactly the same. But what I like about the Krig C is when I was playing with it, I felt like it was a little bit more comfortable to use. I felt like the mobility was better. I did feel like my accuracy was a little bit more on point. And so honestly, if you wanna rank the XM4 and the Krig C, I could totally justify swapping those two and making the Krig C4 and the XM4 number 3. There's very similar A tier assault rifles. Not a lot really to say about the Krig C. I do think the Krig C looks better than the XM4. There's some really cool blueprints that you can get with the Krig C. In fact, the final blueprint in the Season 1 Battle Pass is a Krig C blueprint, which looks absolutely phenomenal. I'm just about to get that, so I can't wait to use that. But beyond that, I mean, the XM4 and the Krig C are very similar. They're very comparable. If you like the XM4, as most people do, you're going to like the Krig C and vice versa. So give the Krig C a try. See if you like it. I don't know. Maybe leave me a comment below. What do you guys think? Is the Krig C XM4 that comparable, or is that just me? If you like one more than the other, why? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. All right, with that, let's get into what I consider to be the S tier of the assault rifles. And our first S tier assault rifle coming in at number 2 is the Model L. Now the Model L is one that when I first started using it, I don't know what it was about it, but it just didn't hit right for me, man. I'm like, I don't like this rifle very much. And I think what it was is the fire rate is a little bit slower. I think I came from like the AS Val and started using the Model L, or maybe it was the XM4 and then the Model L. But whatever it was, I think I came from a higher fire rate rifle to the Model L, and it just took some getting used to. But by the time I had the Model L like halfway, you know, leveled up in its weapon level, I was loving this thing, man. It is a fantastic weapon. It hits super hard, and that is what I like about it. It kills enemies really fast, especially if you can put the rapid fire attachment on it, which we're gonna get into some builds here pretty soon. In fact, right after this, we're gonna get into some of the builds so I can show you guys how I build out most of my assault rifles. And almost all of them, I use the same attachments and weapon mods. But this one is one where I recommend using the rapid fire because it does have a little bit of a slower fire rate. The recoil is not that bad, so it doesn't hurt you that much to use the rapid fire. But if you just get past the fire rate on this thing, the damage is great. The damage output is awesome. It's phenomenal. You'll be mowing down enemies. The magazine size is great. I think with the extended mag 1, you have 45 rounds in it. So really, really powerful, really strong assault rifle. And if you struggle like I did at first with it, give it some time. It did just take some time. And I'm ranking this higher up at number 2, even though it took a little getting used to, because I attribute that to user error. I think it was more of a skill issue. I don't think it was the rifle at all. I think it was just based on what I had come from playing with. It just took me a little bit of time to get used to using this thing. But the Model L absolutely slaps, man. It's a great assault rifle. It kills enemies with the quickness, and I think it's one that you'll really enjoy. Now, before we get into our top rank assault rifle, which if those of you who know the assault rifles, you know what's coming, I want to get into the builds. I want to show you guys how I build out my assault rifles, because the build out that I use is pretty similar in most ways. There are a couple of small exceptions, like I said, with the rapid fire attachment instead of the recoil springs with the Model L, because it is a little bit slower firing. So I want to show you guys how I build out my assault rifles, because it can make a big difference with the recoil control and the fire rate and all that stuff. So let's get into that. And then after that, I'll share with you my number 1 ranked assault rifle and why I have ranked it as number 1. All right, guys, so I'm going to quickly go through the build. Like I said, this is the build that I use for pretty much all the ARs, with a couple of exceptions that I'll explain as we go through this list here. So first off, when it comes to the optic, this is very much personal preference. I don't like to use an optic that has any magnification or anything like that. I like a standard optic. I like one with a low profile. Usually like a mini reflex type optic is good for me. But beyond that, just personal preference. Use what you want there. That's one of the few items here that really doesn't matter that much. Next, we have the muzzle. With the muzzle, I typically go with either the compensator or the ported compensator. If you have a weapon that has a ton of vertical recoil like the AS Val, the compensator is going to be great for you to use to help control that recoil. Other than that, I typically use the ported compensator. It gives you that first shot recoil control to help you have a nice, smooth, accurate first shot, and then you have a little bit less vertical recoil control than you have with the compensator, but still very good. Next up, we have the reinforced barrel on the barrel attachment. That is going to give you the bullet velocity and the damage range. So if you're using an AR, you want it to be very versatile. You want to be able to take on enemies up close. You want to be able to take on enemies from a distance. So by having that bullet velocity and damage range increased, that'll allow you to make sure you can engage enemies at any distance and still be able to come out on top and not have to, have to put five or six extra bullets in an enemy because they're far away. That's an exaggeration a little bit, but you know what I mean. You have to put a couple more bullets in an enemy that's further away. That's the difference between life and death. You can't have that, so we go with the reinforced barrel. All right, next up, we have the underbarrel, and I'm going with the precision foregrip. Precision foregrip is important for the horizontal recoil control, which you don't have a lot of attachments that allow you to get that horizontal recoil control. So if you have a weapon, like most of the ARs that do have some, that have some horizontal recoil, the best way to control that is by using this precision foregrip. I also like that it has the aiming idle sway decreased on there as well. So as you're running and gunning, which is my style of playing Call of Duty, I can keep that white dot in the middle of my screen centered, and I know right where I'm going to come up when I come up aiming or aiming down sights, and I can get that first shot on target and come out ahead in that battle. So precision foregrip on the underbarrel. Next up, we have the magazine. So this one, it's always extended mag 1 because it gives you a little bit of extra ammo, which goes a long way toward helping make sure you come out on top when you engage with multiple enemies at the same time. Nothing feels worse than having an enemy or 3 right on your sights. You take 1 or 2 of them out and then you run out of ammo and you try to hot swap, but you're dead before you get it off. By having that a little bit extra ammunition in the magazine that allow you to take out more than 1 or 2 enemies at a time. And the only exception to this, like I said, is going to be the the AS Val. The AS Val has a very small magazine starting off with, so you're going to want to use the extended mag 3 on that one. Yes, you're going to sacrifice some reload speed, but it's worth it in my opinion in order to have a weapon that you can take out multiple enemies with without having to worry about reloading. So extended mag 1 on everything except for the AS Val. Next up, we have the rear grip. I'm going with the commando grip. Commando grip gives you the aim down sight speed and sprint to fire speed increase. As you can see, guys, that's big because as you're running around, as you're sliding, as you're going quickly around the map and you're trying to find an enemy to engage, when you find an enemy to engage or multiple enemies to engage, you need to be able to engage them quickly, and preferably you're going to engage them before they engage you. By having that aim down sight speed and that sprint to fire speed enhanced with the commando grip, that allows you to engage them faster, get the first shots off, and hopefully come out on top. All right, next up, we have the stock. The stock is kind of personal preference, kind of more on your play style than anything, I would say, compared to some of the other attachments here. But I go with the balanced stock that gives you your strafing movement speed, your hip fire movement speed, your regular movement speed, and your aim walking movement speed. So just overall good utility stock that allows you to move a little bit quicker no matter what you're doing for the most part, and just a great option to help you improve your mobility in almost every way possible. All right, next we have the laser. Lasers, I don't use lasers, guys. I don't use them. I've experimented with them. I don't like them. They do help you with your aim. So if you're struggling with your aim and you feel like that's worth the trade-off of maybe losing some of your ability to be stealth, go ahead and try it. But what I don't like is you lose your stealth. As soon as you aim down sights with the target laser, or I think most of the other lasers, your laser is able to be seen by the enemy. So if you're aiming out of a doorway and there's an enemy out there that you don't know is around the corner, they see your laser, they throw a Semtex, a frag, impact grenade, whatever, right in your face, you're dead, and you lost because you used the laser. So I prefer not to use the laser and just deal with the little bit extra disadvantage when it comes to your hip fire spread, or maybe a little bit less aim down sight accuracy and all that stuff. It's just I don't like having a laser. I feel like it's more of a risk than it is a reward. Finally, we have the fire mod. So again, fire mods, we're using recoil springs on every AR except for the Model L. Recoil springs, what's going to help you have better vertical and recoil and horizontal recoil control, which is huge when it comes to your aim control and your accuracy. And it's very, very important. And I've tried using different things, and the recoil springs almost always comes out on top, with one exception, the Model L. Model L, we want to be using the rapid fire because the Model L does a lot of damage, but the fire rate is not really where it needs to be. So by using the rapid fire mod, that helps to make sure that you're popping shots off nice and quick and really just melting enemies by hitting them quickly with a high damage AR. All right, guys, those are the builds. That's how I set up my ARs. Let me know what you think. You guys agree? You disagree? You know, share your thoughts below. If you disagree, let me know why. And love to hear from you guys. Maybe I'm missing something. You know, I've got a lot of hours in this game. I got diamond camos on all the ARs except for the Goblin for obvious reasons, because the Goblin is trash. It's not an AR that I want to use, but would love to hear from you guys. What do you think? What do you think about the build out? All right, with that out of the way, let's get to our top AR on the #1 spot. And holding down the #1 spot on this ranking of the best ARs in Call of Duty Black Ops 6 is the beautiful, magnificent, always slapping Ames 85. The Ames 85 is the best rifle in Call of Duty Black Ops 6. And it was right off the bat when I started using this rifle. I knew it was golden, man. This thing was gold. It was so good. It has great firepower, great accuracy, great recoil control, good mobility. I mean, it's great across the board, man. It's so fun to use, great magazine capacity. I have nothing but good things to say about this rifle. In fact, I had made a video about my kind of quote unquote grind getting the gold camo with this rifle because it was so much fun. The energy was so great on that live stream. There were so many highlights. I had top frag over and over and over again. And I consider myself to be an above average player. I'm not cracked. I'm not a pro. You know, I'm good at most games. I have good reflexes. I learn, I adapt. So I'm definitely not an ace player by any means, but when I started using this weapon, it was immediate, the results, guys. My KD ratio was up there. My kill streaks were going up. The number of headshots I was getting was up. The number of matches where I was #1 or #2 on the winning side was obviously higher. This weapon is just so good, man. It's so good. The best way for you to see just how powerful and awesome this Ames 85 is to watch the video I put together of all the highlights of me using this weapon to get that gold camo and just seeing how I just mowed down my enemies and just had such a fantastic time with it. You can check that video by clicking the link right up here. And I know there's gonna be some disagreements. Some of you guys are gonna say, man, this weapon is not good. I've seen rankings where people put this way lower. I don't know what they were smoking. This is an absolutely phenomenal AR, and that is why it has earned the #1 ranking on today's list. And I really hope you guys give it a try. Let me know what you think. By the way, if you agree with this ranking, we'd love to hear from you. If you don't agree, let me know below. If you enjoyed this video, would appreciate if you would leave me a like. Go ahead and get subscribed up. Hit that bell notification as well. Just takes 1 second of your time to do all that, and we'll make sure that your YouTube feed is upgraded and you don't miss out on all the future videos and live streams that I have coming your way. I appreciate you guys for watching along today. Hope you enjoyed the video and found this useful. And again, would love to hear your thoughts below. Hit me up, and we'll see you on the next video.